The atheists are all motivated because they are atheists. They are fleeing from God because of their sin. And the prime sin is the embracing of autonomy. I will not have this man rule over me. And then they hide behind excuses like, well, you haven't demonstrated your case, like Addie said. So, Addie, you said I haven't demonstrated the case for God. So you've adopted the alternate view of not God. What demonstrated that? Okay? If both of them are out there and neither one of them have been demonstrated, why did you opt for one rather than the other? Can you answer that question, Addie? And I'll bet you anything, I'll put money on it, folks. He won't address it. He won't answer it. If you're holding to the not God worldview and you say you haven't demonstrated the God worldview, then either you're holding to the not God worldview because it's been demonstrated or it's not been demonstrated. So either way, I've got you. And Tonlock, go ahead. You can say it. Got him.
I think it all comes down to the question William Lane Craig asked Christopher Hitchens, right? Is absence of evidence evidence of absence? So why did you adopt the not God worldview?
Great question, man.
And on what grounds do you say God is absent? Sure. Well, I don't see him. Well, are there things that you believe that exist as a framework for intelligibility? And do you see it? No, you don't.
Can you see laws of nature?
No, you can't. There are many things that they hold to at a foundational mental level that you can't see, and without which you can't make sense of things. So I guess that stuff doesn't exist either if you can't see it. So, Addie, here's the question of the day for you. Since you reject the God worldview because it has not been demonstrated, you're holding to the not God worldview. Has the not God worldview been demonstrated, or is it not demonstrated?
Oh boy, this brings back some memories.
All right, I'm gonna buzz in here.
Okay, so you got it, guys. So when they say you haven't demonstrated the God worldview, you say, good, then you're operating from the not God worldview when you speak. Has that been demonstrated or not? Because being unpersuaded about the God worldview, okay, doesn't demonstrate its falsity, nor does it demonstrate the not God worldview.
The not God worldview is demonstrated by just all the wars and all the harm, all the crimes.
Stop. No piling on.
Don't panic. Don't panic.
Listen.
By the way, I'm not an atheist.
Seeker. Listen to me.
Yeah, but can I finish though? Can I finish? I just want to say I'm not an atheist.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you. No, listen to me. I'm going to tell you why. Right? Because what you just said is just horrendously bad. And here's why, right? When we talk about God, we're talking about that which is absolute and personal. Why would a personal absolute God logically necessitate no conflict between beings that he created? Cue the Jeopardy music, MJ.
Well, first of all, the statement that he's absolute, or that a God is absolute and personal, seems somewhat contradictory.
Sir, first of all, we're talking
God,
about.
How is an absolute
listen,
God
dude, listen to me.
God?
We're talking about the concept of God that the atheist is talking about. The atheism is not the position that one or many gods don't exist. Atheism is the denial of all gods exist. So if the presence of human conflict, bloodshed, and even death, okay, is indicative that there is no personal absolute, how does it necessarily follow that if there is a personal absolute creator, that there will not be conflict between entities that he creates? How does that follow? So when we can only have intelligibility if we only live in a certain kind of world as opposed to other worlds. Other worlds will not have the necessary prerequisites or preconditions for intelligibility. So then we need to ask ourselves, what are the necessary prerequisites in order to have intelligibility, right? In other words, in order to say the sky is blue, the dog is running in the backyard, right? Now, number one, you're going to need a world where there's a personal creator God who is omniscient and omnipotent, because without which he may institute a world that may not work correctly. And so the way your mind operates may operate erratically. And if your mind is operating erratically, then you're not going to be able to have intelligibility. Look what happens when people take drugs. Does their mind work correctly? Do they have intelligibility? No, they don't.
Okay.
So you're going to need to have a personal absolute creator God that is omniscient and omnipotent. Okay? Do you accept that or not?
Right. Sure.
Okay. But you see, that's not going to be enough, because you could have a God that isn't always truth revealing. Maybe he's just going to create the world just for the kicks of it, just to goof and troll on the creatures that he made and to deceive them about stuff, right? So in order to have intelligibility, you're going to need to have a personal absolute creator God that is omniscient, omnipotent, always truth revealing, and he's constructed a world in such a way that it operates so that we can know certain things. Well, that's going to require that God has a plan for human existence, right? And it's also going to require that God has a plan to deal with the current situation. Because either you will conceive is that the human condition, you and I and everyone else on this planet, is normal or abnormal. Okay? Because we have conflict on this planet. We have people harming each other. We have people lying to each other. So either you're going to conclude that this is normal or abnormal. And if there's is there a plan to rectify this situation, not only in the future, but in the present? Okay? Because the God of the Bible just doesn't save us from future damnation. He saves us from our own unintelligibility when we adopt autonomous reasoning. Because when you adopt autonomous reasoning, then there is no ultimate framework for which you to place facts. Therefore, facts cannot be known for what they are. Facts will just be declared whatever the subjective opinion of what somebody wants to believe. And we call that fantasy. And so you're going to need all of the properties and attributes of the Christian God, and without which you're not going to have a framework for intelligibility. Right? Now, if you don't want to accept that, then I'm going to simply say to you, you can sit there and be quiet. And if you're not quiet, then whatever comes out of your mouth after you reject the God of the Bible as the precondition for intelligibility, you're going to have to tell me how your world, in terms of this foundation, provides for the necessary conditions of necessary conditions of intelligibility. Can your worldview provide for that, Gizmo?
I guess I don't know.
Well, the answer is no. Because how could you, apart from accepting the self-disclosure of the Christian God, who he is and what he's done, and how he created this world to run and operate, there would be no way for you to know what is ultimate. There would be no way for you to know how things work on a grand scale. Ever. Doesn't matter what technological achievements you make. So the denial of God's self-disclosure of himself, his loving self-disclosure, resulting catastrophic metaphysical incoherence for the non-Christian. It's just they're whistling past the graveyard thinking that they have intelligibility when they don't.